In a real estate transaction in which you represent the seller, your duty to other parties is to be honest in all matters that do not affect your client's interest, maintain the confidentiality of all matters that others disclose to you, be polite and courteous, treat them honestly and fairly. All right, everybody got it right. Let's see who got it right faster. All right, Long. Fewer buyers in a higher price range would create what kind of pressure on housing prices? Downward, strong, steady, or upward? So fewer buyers in a higher price range would create what kind of pressure on housing prices? So if there are fewer buyers, would it create downward pressure, strong pressure, upward pressure, or steady? Yes, downward. So if there are less buyers, it means the price would have to go down to match that. If there were less inventory, so it's supply and demand. The buyer would be the demand. So if there's less demand, then that means prices go down. If there were more buyers for less homes, which we have right now, prices go up. All right.
Oh my.
Complaints based on Title VIII should be filed with the Office of Equal Opportunity, National Civil Rights Commission, local board, National Association of Realtors. All right, Office of Equal Opportunity. So yeah, the Title VIII is Office of Equal Opportunity because that's where the complaints go. National Association of Realtors, you're not really going to file much with them at all. Your local board is a part of the National Association of Realtors, and the National Civil Rights Commission isn't going to be the one either, just because that's not the Office of Equal Opportunity is where you would go for that. And I really don't know how to explain that better, so I guess I will work on the explanation better. I just know that that's it. All right. What are known cancer-causing agents called? Cigarettes, carcinogens, viruses, or disease? Cancer-causing agents. What are they called? All right, carcinogens. So cancer-causing agents are called carcinogens. So it's anything in the house like your asbestos, your lead-based paints, anything that can cause cancers. Radon gas, all those things are carcinogens. So you'll have to be on the lookout for those in the houses. All right. For a conventional loan, how much of a borrower's income can be used to service debt? 36%, 28%, 33%, or 29%? Yes, you both got it right. 36%. The hazardous material used to make insulation for heating ducts in houses is called radon, lead, asbestos, or urea formaldehyde insulation. Heating ducts is the key word there. Yeah. So asbestos wraps the heating ducts. Urea formaldehyde insulation goes into the walls to insulate from the outside. The salesperson will have a buyer sign an Ohio State Agency disclosure form at the closing, prior to qualifying the buyer, prior to writing an offer, or prior to showing the properties. All right. So yes, it is prior to writing an offer. So the disclosure, Ohio State agency disclosure form, it's not your consumer guide. So that's
Right.
different. So agency disclosure needs to be done prior to writing an offer. Consumer guide is the one that you do at first contact. So that's different than an agency disclosure. So just note that. And welcome, Tiana. So if you're on your phone or have the ability, you can still jump into the game. You would go to kahoot.it and then put the game pin in that's at the bottom. Okay. So if you want to jump in the game as it's playing, you would, and you guys can see that on my screen, right? Yes. No.
Yes.
All right. All right. So if you're just coming into the room, feel free to join. An in-company transaction is one in which agents from different brokerages represent the parties. Seller and buyer are both licensed real estate agents in the same brokerage. Different agents from the same brokerage represent the buyer and seller, or the buyer uses the same title company as the seller. In-company transaction. All right. Uh-oh, we must have lost somebody. We've only got one person playing. All right. Tiana hopped out, and let me let her back in. All right. All right, Tiana, welcome back. Feel free to jump into the game using the Kahoot IT and the game pin here at the bottom. All right, so different agents from the same brokerage represent the buyer and seller. Well, if we've only got one person playing, I am going to change this.
No, I'm playing. I'm sorry, I just didn't know the answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. I thought it jumped off because one person answered.
No.
All right. A broker lists a home which cannot terminate this agreement. Which cannot terminate this agreement? Death of a broker, death of seller, seller bankruptcy, or death of a salesperson. So which cannot terminate the agreement? Everybody got it right. All right. Death of a salesperson, because the salesperson isn't actually on the agreement. They sign it in representation of the broker. Effective gross income best describes gross income in an ideal situation with no vacancy and collection losses, gross income minus debt service, gross income minus a figure for vacancy and collection losses, or net income. Effective gross income. All right. Yeah, it's minus vacancy and collection losses. So the gross income, think gross, and then you take out everything else to get to net. So your net is after you take out debt servicing. So any of your debt servicing, your mortgages, that kind of thing, that's going to be your net income. So gross is before you take that out. So it's still, you take out vacancy and collection losses because that's if nobody's, there. But then you take out actual money to get to net. All right, long on the trip back. Who approves the governor's appointments to the Real Estate Commission? The State Senate, Appointments Committee of the governor's political party, Commerce Committee of the State of the House of Representatives, or the State Supreme Court?
The governor's appointments.
It is the Senate. So the, think governor, Senate. So it's the Senate. That's who approves it. All right, long on the comeback. What will happen if an applicant is charged with misconduct either prior to, during, or after the examination? The applicant will be charged with a misdemeanor. The applicant will be denied. They'll immediately reapply and be retested. The applicant's sponsoring broker will be suspended. They will be denied, correct. What must be contained in the HUD fair housing poster? Address of the Ohio Civil Rights Commission, explanation of the Ohio fair housing laws, address of the Ohio Division of Real Estate, or address of the Ohio State Attorney General's office? Address of the Ohio Division of Real Estate. So the HUD fair housing poster, what has to be on there is that, because that's where you put your complaints to. So if you had any complaints or anything that you would need to do, the Ohio Division of Real Estate address has to be on there. So your HUD fair housing poster must have the address of the Ohio Division of Real Estate. When must an Ohio buyer's agent disclose his agency relationship to an unrepresented seller? At closing, relationships don't need to be disclosed. At first substantive contract, or when asked about the relationship. That's right. First substantive contact. Net income best describes potential gross income, income before expenses, income after expenses, or effective gross income. So yes, income after expenses. Good, we just went over that. What is not an example of real property? A sump pump, a shed, drapes, or a bathtub? Drapes, correct. Again, real property is anything that is affixed to the home in a way that would make it seem permanent. That includes, wall-mounted televisions if they're bolted onto the property. If they can be lifted up and taken down like a picture frame, then they're not considered real property. The fee for renewing a broker's license is $149, $259, $139, or $243. This is a broker's license. There it is, $243. Good job. What type of deed would a buyer of real property prefer? Sheriff's deed, special warranty deed, general warrant. There you go. I bet everybody got that right. Yep, general warranty deed. You guys are doing great. A listing agreement is an agreement between seller and buyer, salesperson and broker, seller and salesperson, seller and broker. Seller and broker. Good job. We might get through all these. If a property has an assessed value of $87,500 and the level of assessment was 35%, what is the value of the property? I don't know if there's a way to pause this. Yes, $250,000. So again, you take it and you divide it by 0.35. So 87,500 divided by 0.35 gives you $250,000. So that's how you calculate the assessment on the property, and you both got it right. All right. Jules is new to property management. Which of the following tasks may be one of her duties? Creating a budget for next year's projected maintenance costs, purchasing the apartments to be managed, investing profits from the business, or representing the owner in court. Property management. Which one of these would be her duties? Oh, with no cheat. Oh, there we go. Somebody answered. Yes, creating a budget. So purchasing the apartments, that's not a property manager's job. Investing, that's definitely not their job. And then representing the owner in court, you know, occasionally they can, but that's not a typical duty. That's an add-on for some property management companies. And generally they don't practice law, so you can't really use them as that. You'd want an attorney. All right. A broker who deposits clients' money in the same bank account as the brokerage operating funds is guilty of conversion, merger, commingling, or binding. Yep, commingling. Which one of the following actions would result in the legal termination of an agency agreement? The client wants the seller to make improvements to the property. There's an unexpected death in the agent's family. The client wants to attach an addendum to the sales contract, or the terms specified in the agency agreement expired. The term. Correct. A brief summary of a property's history, listing all recorded documents that may affect the title, is a certificate of title, title insurance, title report, or abstract of title. Yes, it is the abstract of title. So a title report is different than the abstract of title. So title report is the report of the last time the title has been run. So it pulls up all the data you need. So it gives you like outlines the legal status of the property and related information on the ownership. Whereas the abstract is a brief summary of the title's history, listing all recorded documents that may affect the title. Refusing to make loans based on the racial composition of a neighborhood is called blockbusting, exclusionary zoning, steering, or redlining. Redlining. Got it. Genuine assent means a contract can be binding even under duress. A contract can be binding even under undue influence. Consent must be freely given before a contract can be legally binding, or a contract can be binding even under fraud. Yes, consent must be freely given. So contracts can never be binding under undue influence. Okay, all right. Harvey enters into a lease where he must pay 30% of the landlord's expenses. Which type of lease did Harvey sign? A gross lease, a percentage lease, a net lease, or a land lease? Paying a percentage of the landlord's expenses. Some question on this one. So percentage leases are actually where you pay a percentage of what you make. So if you have a business, you would pay a percentage to the landlord on your business profits. So that's a percentage lease. So a net lease is where you pay all or a part of what a landlord has to pay in utilities and building maintenance, that kind of thing. Land lease wouldn't be a thing in this because it's just on the land. You'd be leasing the land. So that's the difference there. Which court has jurisdiction over estates of the deceased? Probate court, federal district court. There you go. You guys knew that one quick. Probate. What document serves as escrow instructions? The listing agreement, the purchase agreement, the good faith estimate, or the HUD settlement statement? The purchase agreement. All right. So good faith estimate has to do with lending. So that has everything to do with your loan and not to do with the actual purchase of the property. So escrow instructions are instructions to the title company. And so the instructions, and actually, I just had something come up where I wound up having to pay for a home warranty because my assistant checked the wrong box on whether they wanted a home warranty. We had all the paperwork. There was a home warranty invoice. There was a home warranty on the escrow instructions themselves. It was not on the contract. So a title company is going to ignore all other things and look for the answer on the contract. So if it's not on the purchase agreement, then that's what they're going to use for the escrow instructions. So make sure whatever you have is on that purchase agreement or an addendum to it. Mortgages are recorded in order to assure amortization payments, comply with the truth in lending regulations, transfer title to the mortgagee, or create a valid lien. Yes, create a valid lien. In Ohio, under what circumstances can a real estate broker pay a referral fee to an out-of-state broker? The out-of-state broker agrees to claim it on her federal income taxes. The referral fee is less than $100. The out-of-state broker doesn't perform other real estate activity in Ohio, or the referral fee is less than $200. All right. I'm a little iffy on that one. So I'll let that stand. But here's the thing. Even if that out-of-state broker did perform real estate, so if you were in Cleveland and they did business in Cincinnati and they had an Ohio license and a Kentucky license, you would still be able to pay a referral fee to that broker. So I don't know. That's a weird one. The rule is they have to be licensed. They have to have a real estate license. And that's really what it comes down to. So again, don't listen to me in some of these, because when I took my Ohio test after being a real estate agent for a while, these things trip me up, because I would have said none of these. And the test is going to ask you questions like this. So this is the answer they want. The out-of-state broker doesn't perform other real estate activity in Ohio. So just know that that's what they're looking for. The real answer is they just have to be licensed. That's the only circumstance where they can pay a referral fee. But, all right, which of the following is an example of commingling? Mixing earnest money with personal funds, paying licensee bonuses from forfeited escrow deposits, mixing two earnest money deposits, or using escrow funds to pay business expenses. Yes. A property is valued at $100,000 and is taxed at 45 mills. The assessment rate on the property is 35%. The yearly tax is $1,575, $157.50, $15,750, or $15.75. Somebody saw the answer. Yes. So yes, 1575. So I'm going to show you guys this so you see it again. All right. So when you talk about a mill means $1 per thousand. So if it's 1,000 times 35%, then you do 45 mils divided by 1,000. So 45 divided by 1,000, it's $1 per every 1,000. So this is 45, so $1 for every 1,000. And then that's how you come to the 1575. So you multiply this, and then that gets you this once you multiply it by that. All right. The offeror is the person who performs as agreed, accepts the offer, makes the offer, or breaches contract. Yes, makes the offer. A dual agent cannot act in a biased manner towards either buyer or seller, negotiate on behalf of either buyer or seller, advocate for either buyer or seller, or all of answers listed. It's all of them. Good job. A contract in which each party to the agreement has an obligation under that agreement is a unilateral contract, tendering performance, bilateral contract, or breach of contract. Bilateral contract, correct. We're going to keep it a surprise. A real estate owner who leases the property is called the lessor, the lessee, a mortgagor, a mortgagee, or a vendor. So lessor or lessee, mortgagee, or vendor. They're leasing the property. Yes. So it is the lessor. So the real estate owner who leases the property is the lessor, and the tenant is the lessee. Oh, there we go. Somebody jumped in. There you go. Tiana jumped in there. All right. Let's get it going. What is the best description of a deed? A covenant, an abstract of title, a document to transfer ownership interest in real estate, or a recording fee? The document to transfer, yes. I can see where you would think a covenant. And no, a covenant would not be a deed. And I don't really know how to explain that better, other than the deed is the document to transfer ownership. So the deed shows the transfer of the property. That's what the deed is for. Covenants are usually inside of like bylaws, like covenants and restrictions. So they pass along with property. But that's usually, that goes along with like zoning, and it's a covenant can be inside of the deed, but not the, and it's not the deed itself. So you can have covenants. They're not the deed themselves though. What happens to an initial offer from the buyer after a seller counters? It becomes the backup offer. It is no longer in play. It is accepted by the seller until the buyer accepts the counter. Their sellers cannot counter a buyer's initial offer. Yes, it is no longer in play. And I would actually change the wording on that a little bit. So whenever you counter an offer, you're essentially voiding the previous offer. You're declining it, and so that offer becomes null and void until a new offer is put forward. So the counter offer becomes the new offer, and the previous offer is canceled. So if it was countered, the seller can't accept, the seller hasn't accepted it. All right. Which approach to value is typically used for investment property of 2 to 4 family units? Cost approach, revenue approach, income approach, or sales comparison approach? Yep, the income approach. So sales comparison approach is done for residential property, not necessarily investment property. So when you're looking at the sales comparison, that's mainly for residential. When you're talking investment, they're going to be looking at how much money the property makes. So think sales for residential, income for investment. Steph on a roll. Back on top. A disabled tenant was denied permission to install a handlebar in the shower. What law has the landlord violated? Fair Housing Act, ADA, no law has been violated, or the Civil Rights Act of 1866? That is correct. I got it right. If the title to property is held for the benefit of a beneficiary, this legal arrangement is called, oh, Tiana's back in the room, trust, corporation, limited partnership, or general partnership. A beneficiary. Good job. Everybody knew it was trust. Everything else was about structure of your business for the most part, or tenancy. Well, not tenancy, but structures of business, LLC structures. What is the fee to transfer a real estate salesperson's license from one brokerage to another? $24, $34, $10, or $15? There you go, 34. An example of this type of leasehold estate is a month-to-month lease. Estate at sufferance, estate for months, estate at will. Good job. Periodic estate. A real property transfer fee of $1 million on the sale of real estate at a total consideration of $63,500 equals, remember, $1 million is 1 for every 1,000. There you go. So $63.50. Got to move the decimals. Ooh, long jumps back. Which of these is not a way an Ohio agency relationship can be legally terminated? The broker dies, the client files for bankruptcy, the buyer client dies, or the salesperson dies? The salesperson, right. It's neck and neck. In most states, the listing broker has a fiduciary duty to the salesperson, the buyer, the customer, or the client. That's correct. Now it's just a race to see who hits the button first. 20-point difference. The buyers had no idea there were different ways to take ownership. They need your help. You should. Usually married couples want survivorship so they can avoid probate. Wow, you guys were on that one. It is a race. Yes, advise them to ask their attorney. Oh, it's tight. It's getting even closer. 5 point difference. The act of government taking private property for public use with just compensation is condemnation, escheat, eminent domain, or taxation. Yes, condemnation. Oh, Steph with the quick fingers. The leasehold estate that can be terminated by either party and cannot be assigned is tenancy at will, joint tenancy, periodic tenancy, or estate for years. All right, tenancy at will. So yes, can be terminated by either party and cannot be assigned. Tenancy at will. Who got it? Oh, so stay on in there. What factors does the underwriter consider in reviewing a mortgage loan application? Capacity, collateral, and criminal record, credit, capacity, and collections, credit, capacity, and collateral, or credit, credentials, and collateral?
I don't know.
Credit, capacity, and collateral. So your credit, your capacity to handle the loan, and the collateral you have and for backing up the loan for the amount. So your collateral, your credit, your capacity, and your collateral. Credentials wouldn't really matter, like your titles or anything like that wouldn't matter as far as your capacity to be able to handle the loan. All right. From where does the real estate licensee get the 19 articles of the Canons of Ethics? The Ohio Association of Realtors, the Ohio Real Estate Commission, the National Association of Realtors, or the Division of Real Estate? So the Canons of Ethics are the Ohio, yes. What would be considered evidence of the agency relationship between broker and buyer? Listing agreement, agency disclosure statement, buyer-broker contract, power of attorney. Yes, buyer-broker contract. When the principal terminates the agency relationship before it expires, it is called renunciation, revocation, repudiation, or rescission.
Oh,
It is called revocation. They are revoking.
no.
And long jumps back in front. 55. Hope's mortgage created a lien against the property she purchased with the mortgage. What kind of lien is this? A general lien, a vendor's lien, special assessment, or a voluntary lien?
Oh,
Voluntary lien.
I know. All right.
You're going fast, so you're you know, and you have time in the test. So it's okay to make these mistakes here. Take your time in the test. To be an effective property manager, a licensee must be familiar with a variety of agency disclosures, independent contractor agreements, employment contracts, or lease agreements. Property manager. Lease agreements. If you're a property manager, you must be familiar with different types of lease agreements. When does a customer become a client? When she is shown a property by a licensee, when she enters into an agency relationship with the licensee, when she talks with the licensee with the specific property, or when a licensee signs an agency agreement. So this can be a weird one because you would think that some of these are the case. but it's when she enters into an agency relationship. So a customer becomes a client then. There's involuntary agency or, all those other things, but this is when it actually a customer becomes a client. And agency relationships, that doesn't have to be written. It can be an implied relationship. You've shown them properties, you've talked about their finance, it's an implied relationship. So just because it's not signed agreement does not mean you do not have an agency relationship with that person. So always be careful about that. So yeah, once an agency relationship is formed. The amount a broker may charge for a commission is set by state law, negotiable in the listing contract, stated in the canons of ethics, or set by the Board of Realtors. Yes, negotiable. What would enhance the value of real property? A picture of the Mona Lisa hanging in the hallway, a toxic waste dump being built next door, an above ground pool, or a two-car garage? Two-car garage. All those other things aren't necessarily value to the property. Which of the following entities doesn't actually create Ohio real estate licensing laws, rules, but enforces them? Division of Real Estate, Licensed Enforcement Board, the legislature, or Real Estate Commission? So they don't create the rules, they enforce them. The Real Estate Commission. So Division of Real Estate creates the rules. So as far as the Ohio real estate licensing laws. So that's where the rules are created. The Real Estate Commission enforces them. Who determines whether an Ohio complaint should proceed to a formal hearing? The administrative law judge, the Real Estate Commission, the hearing examiner, or the superintendent of real estate? Good job, superintendent of real estate. An out-of-state prospect asks an agent to locate a diverse neighborhood for him. The agent should not take the prospect, show the prospect the diverse neighborhood, state that that research of this nature is beyond the agent's scope of authority, or research the population trends in the neighborhood. Yep. The principal broker has the following duties except oversee and direct operations, comply with fair housing documentation requirements, comply with office requirements, prepare a listing agreement. That is the one thing they do not do. Which of the following features is most likely to be the cause of an adjustment to a comparable when preparing a CMA? Busy street, demographics, color, or interest rates? What would adjust a comparable when preparing a CMA?
Dang it.
Busy street.
Wow.
So all of these other things, color of paint, none of that stuff is going to matter on a property because that can be changed. So this can be changed relatively easily. Demographics, we're definitely not allowed to go into demographics to determine value. Interest rates have nothing to do with a CMA. That's the lending portion. But a busy street, if it's a busy street versus a quiet street, that's gonna, there's noise, houses on a quiet street are probably gonna command a little bit more money than something on a busy street that people are walking around and doing stuff. And unless it's like a city where you want to be on the busy street, and then it commands more. So it could go either way depending on the area, but a busy street would be the only thing in there that you cannot change about the property or that you can use for the property. So that is the answer. In a suit brought under the federal fair housing law as amended, punitive damages may be as much as $10,000, $1,000, $50,000, or there is no limit. There is no limit to the punitive damages. That is correct. To sit for the Ohio Brokers Examination, a licensed salesperson must have completed how many real estate transactions? 20, 25, 30, or 15? All right, good job. 20. Oh, you guys are so close. The purpose of the Ohio Real Estate Canons of Ethics is to bring professional standing to the practice of real estate, eliminate part-time sales agents, make it harder to get a real estate license. All right, yes, bring professional standing. Long pulling away. Harvey enters into a lease where he must pay 30% of landlord's expenses. Which type of lease did Harvey sign? I feel like that's a double. We did this one already. Oh, okay. So yeah, percentage lease is again where you pay a percentage of your business profits.
Did that.
And net lease is where you pay a portion, some or all of the owner's expenses. What special concern do foreclosed properties often present? Buying the property at a discount may have tax implications. The property sale may be subject to additional fees to be passed to the new buyer. The homeowners may or may not have property insurance, or there could be hidden title issues. Hidden title issues. Correct. All right. We made it through it. 69 questions and just under an hour. All right, and the winner is Long. It was quite the battle there for a little bit. You all were neck and neck. Long pulled it out in the end, though. All right. Okay. Well, that was a lot of those ones at the end were license laws. So that was a lot of state portion stuff towards the end there. So I noticed there were some questions that were difficult or, taking a little bit longer. So definitely brush up on your license laws and your brokerage relationships. For your state portion, 30 of the 40 questions are going to be on those two topics. Beyond that, good job. You all got most of those correct. And remember, you only need a 70 to pass. So, it's definitely doable if you keep practicing and just keep looking at the right stuff to get you where you need to be. Any questions for me before we hop off here?
I have a quick question. So the questions that you're doing in Kahoots, do you feel like if we know these questions, we'll be pretty much prepared for, are the questions the same format? Like
they're slightly different. So a lot of times the questions may be longer and I have to paraphrase some of them and cut them down because Kahoot only lets you put so many words in the question. Yes, they're similar. And we can definitely go back and do like the CompuGrammer too. I have CE Shop and CompuGrammer, both that I can use. So I pull the questions from those, the CompuGrammer and the CE Shop. So they're as close as I can get them. And at the same time, you'll see some of the questions will look like what you'll see on the exam. Some will not. And again, I may, just break it up because we've done Kahoot for a little bit, and I'm feeling out the system on what it can do. And at the same time, there may be some benefit to us going back and doing some of the longer format questions in the CompuCrammer and the CE Shop, just because those will allow us to see some of the questions in a more formatted way. And again, everything you saw gives you the idea or the right kind of answer. So, whether it's more like whether you know the answer or not, as opposed to, the extra words that they put in those questions to kind of throw you off. So if you know the answer, then it doesn't matter how many words they put in. You just have to be able to read through it and get to what they're actually asking you. Because again, they will ask questions like that one about percentage. They'll ask questions just like that, where they say, 30% of this, and then they'll say, is that a percentage lease? Because they put the word percent in there. And just to make people say, oh yeah, because it triggers in your head percent, and that must be right. So they will do things like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anything else? We got 4 minutes left. Anything about real estate in itself? Anything about the exam coming up? No?
No.
All right.
It's just a lot of information that I'm just like, I feel like every day you almost, until you take the exam, almost feel like every day you really have to do this or you can forget. I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah, and it's good.
It's just a lot of information.
It is. And remember the information remember what's important. Those 6 categories, they're going to be the ones that if you focus on those, everything else you're going to have like maybe 1 to 2 questions on, but you're going to have like 11 questions on like brokerage relationship, you know what I mean? Or, 15 or, so it's like everything else you'll have like 1 or 2 that you'll have to know. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. And if you don't, 1 question, 2 questions isn't going to hurt you. The majority of the questions are going to be in those categories. So if you really focus on those, you'll have the majority, and you'll know some of the other stuff just from having done the practice, taken the test, all those things. So which category? So just what we went over, I'll put it in the chat box. So contracts, finances, then there's brokerage relationships, or that's state. So I'm gonna stick with national for right now. So general principles of agency, practice of real estate. So that's your national. And then brokerage relationships and license laws. What do they call it? License laws and what? And rules of the Ohio Real Estate Commission. License laws and rules. And that is your state portion. So brokerage relationship, license laws and rules are your state portion. 30 of the 40 questions you're going to be asked are brokerage relationship, license laws, and 53 of the 80 questions on the national are contracts, finances, general principles of agency, and practice of real estate. So those are your categories. That's the majority of your test right there. You get those right, you pass. That's it. So everything else in there, it's good to know. And like I said, you'll be asked 1 or 2 questions on some of the other stuff. These are the questions you'll be asked like 10 to 11 questions on each. So anywhere from 8 to 11 or so on each of those.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, you all have a good evening. Thanks for being here.
You too.
And I will make sure we get reminder emails out next week. And have a good night.